How much of that will be live?
No.
Now, how much of that's going to be on screen is the question.
Find out in a second, I guess.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. We're back. We are here. We're ready to go. Sometimes technology is just the way it is, and you gotta deal with it. Welcome to the first session of the VäkPäker's Guide to TTRPGs. I'm Emily. This is Artemis, my pal.
Hi.
And technically it was their idea. And we're going to talk about role-playing games tonight, but first I have announcements, because that's how we roll. We're busy people, and we want you to know how busy we are so that you can be busy with all the stuff we do for you. Our first, oh my gosh. I'm talking too fast. Our first announcement, our sponsor for tonight is Canadian Dice. Go to canadiandice.ca and use the code TheVäkTär, all one word, at checkout for 10% off your order. Maggie's pick of the week, I think, is Undertow because the sea is great and not creepy. Next, check out our merch store at tinyurl.com/VäkMerch. That's where you can get excellent designs like Half Orc Energy and the Vac Blob. I think Pride merch comes down today, or came down today at midnight tonight. So you have a few hours left. Spend all your money buying Pride merch from our store. Yeah, and then you could always wait until next year, I guess, but why would you? Next, I'm gonna just go through our schedule. Tomorrow night is Blood in the Six on DM Jeremy's channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's a Vampire the Masquerade game. Should be a lot of fun. Monday, we're back here on the VäkTär for Mistwalkers at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On Wednesday, Affy and Artemis are over on Cantrips and Coffee for the first session of Call of Cthulhu at 9 p.m. Eastern. That should be really fun as well because Eldritch Horror. On Thursday, A Song of Crystal and Shadow is here on this channel again, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That is our Final Fantasy game run by DM Sophia. And then on Friday, we've got Fixius 5 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's us, plus some more people. And Artemis runs that game. Yeah.
After drinking people.
Yes, and sometimes things like that go according to plan. And other times, the chat takes over.
And other times, they get turned into sheep. It's fine.
It is fine. That's part of how it goes. Okay, pause for podcast purposes.
You're really gonna say that every frickin' time, aren't you?
Yes, because now it's a bit. We really are gonna say it because now it's a bit and it's funny. So yeah, this is our show. This is VäkPäker's Guide to TTRPGs. We're gonna be talking all things tabletop role-playing games. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's where you usually have some kind of rule book, or it might just be a rule sheet, depending on what game you're playing. You roll some multi-sided dice according to what the rules ask for, and then see what the rules say about it, and then make stuff up. And it's really fun. Both Artemis and I play a lot of tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah, we do.
And we're just gonna kind of tonight get into, like, just be casual, get into, like, how we got started into things like this. Or sometimes you have cards. Exactly, Rick. Sometimes you have cards. Sometimes you use dice. Sometimes you just sit there and make stuff up. And that's all valid. All of it's good. All of it's enjoyable. Tonight we're just going to kind of talk about, like, how we got started in that stuff. And I think we're gonna go way, way back, like to childhoods, because it always starts somewhere.
Right?
Like, I know growing up, I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi books. I don't know about you, but
I read a
I
lot of
think,
fantasy books growing up, like high magic and that sort of stuff.
oh
Uh
yeah.
I wasn't so much into the sci-fi except for I read a lot of the young Jedi books or
Oh,
a lot of the old Star Wars books that are no longer canon because, we love when that happens. But yeah, I read a lot of that growing up.
oh, okay. I'm also not, I think I was not, yes, the origins of nerdiness. I was not super sci-fi person either, except like my uncle was really into Star Wars, and so and like my dad and I watched Star Trek The Next Generation. But like Star Wars I think is really just space fantasy because it's got like magic in it.
Yeah, and like our house, we didn't watch Star Trek, but we watched a lot of Star Wars. My older brother was really into Star Wars for a long time, and so I think I've seen The Empire Strikes Back more times than I've seen any of the other Star Wars movies.
It's the best one.
It really is. Out of all of them, it probably is.
Out of all of them, it really is. Um, and yeah, I think like there was a lot of Yoda talk, a lot of Skywalker talk, just in my family in general because of that. But in terms of like books, I started The Way You Do in a like somewhat,
YA section at the library.
yeah, but even like my dad was a pastor, so it was like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because that's what the
Oh yeah.
Christian fantasy books are. Um, and I don't know what else. Well, Lord of the Rings eventually.
So like Lord of the Rings came out, I think I was in high school when those came
Oh, the
out.
movies?
Yeah, the movies. The
Yeah.
and we had a computer science class that our teacher was just like, "Y'all are seniors. I don't really care." So he would put on all three of the Lord of the Rings movies and just run them like back to back to back and let us work on our computer
Yes.
science projects.
That's
He
awesome.
never taught us once the entire year. He's just like, "You guys know what you're doing. Just go do it."
I know, like, I think the last one, either the second one or the last one came out while I was in college, and my school bought out a whole movie theater and bussed us up to it to go, like, watch. Like,
Nice.
anyone that signed up could go watch the movie.
That's cool.
Um,
Yeah, if we wanted to watch that, we just went to Mr. Hideman's room and hid in there for a couple of hours.
that's kind of awesome, honestly. Like, my teachers never put on cool stuff like that. And I'm kind of sad because like I know that there were fantasy movies before those
Mm-hmm.
that were actually pretty good. Like I didn't know about um Willow until
Well, yeah, yep.
I
I
was
watched a
much
lot of that.
older, which I think is such a shame because Willow's actually really good. And by the way, if you haven't watched the Willow TV show, it's amazing. I love it so much. There's supposed to be like 2 more seasons, but yeah, so that kind of stuff. And I mean, yeah, book wise, once I got into middle school, well, even like I read the Wayside School books, if you're familiar with that,
Yeah, I
which like
remember those.
they're like fantasy in the real world.
Yeah.
It's like,
And they're super cheesy kids book, but
yeah,
they were still very good. I remember
they're
those.
so good.
And we
And
read
then
all of the like Ryan Jacques books, like Redwall and
yes,
stuff like that. Like that was probably one of my earliest introductions to fantasy was Redwall.
yeah, me too.
I think that book will probably stick with me for the rest of my life because I remember
That
very
was a really
clearly
good
that
one.
book.
Redwall, and well, there's a ton of them in that series now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like a
Redwall is
million
just
of
the
them.
first one I think that I read.
I think, oh, Animorphs. Yeah, I didn't read those for some reason, but that makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people that really got into Animorphs too.
My little brother was really into those. I wasn't so much, but
Yeah.
the
I
book
read
covers always freaked me out a little bit.
I know like we had the some of them were really weird too. Like wasn't there a rat one?
Hmm.
I for some reason remember that one being very kind of creepy.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
also there was a book that I read. I think it was like one of the first times I bought a book for myself at a Scholastic Book Fair.
What
And
was
it
the
was
bomb?
yeah. They used to set up like right outside our school library, and I totally bought it based on the cover because the cover was super cool. And it was the book Sabriel by Garth Nix. I freaking love those books.
So
Such a
yeah,
weird magic
it's funny that
system.
you bring that up. So the Nine Falls River in Fixius is actually based on that book.
Nine Falls like the Nine Gates. Oh my gosh.
Was where I got the original inspiration was from Sabriel. So,
I
and then I think the
freaking
second one was Abhorsen,
the second one
right?
was Lyriel and the third one is
Third one was
Abhorsen.
Abhorsen. Okay,
But
it's been
then
a while since I read them, but
I don't know if you've read any of the more recent ones, but there's a fourth one called Golden Hand. Or no, the fourth one is actually a prequel called Clariel, which is like
no, I don't
the
think I ever read that one.
it's a weird one. It's less satisfying to read because you sit there the whole time going, why is this person making so many bad decisions? Um and then there's a book that comes after um a portion called Golden Hand, which isn't just in my opinion not one of his best works.
Okay.
um but then he wrote a prequel as well about Sabriel's parents.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
and
yep,
that
the
was also
Aragon book.
really
Yep, this
good.
is right.
Oh
The
yeah.
Aragon books were amazing. I was disappointed with the movie only because they didn't keep going. Like, I didn't mind the
Oh.
Aragon movie that much. I know that a lot of people a lot of people hated it, but I really didn't care that much. Like, it was fine. It wasn't my favorite fantasy movie in the world, but it was fine.
Oh. How did I not know that?
The
That
characters
was
didn't consume an ounce of space.
Herringon, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah, yep. I think I remember Rick saying that about his character. So,
Yeah. That makes sense. I always wanted to. So, part of the reason I wrote that one shot was because of the book Sabriel, because I always thought it'd be really interesting to have like a necromancer bard, because that's totally what she is. She plays an instrument and uses it to like fight dead stuff.
mhm.
It's kind of cool. Um,
Yeah. I was always really fascinated by the like bandolier of bells that she wore that she got from I think it was her
yes.
dad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're so cool. It's such a cool. I think like the magic system in that book really captivated me because it was not like the whole like wizards and dragons and stuff. It was one of the
It was
first
very
books that I
different.
yeah, it was one of the first books that I ever read that was like, "Oh, you're not casting spells. This is a whole you can make magic that's a whole other thing." That's awesome. Um yeah,
Another sort of like
I always love that.
series in that vein is the Circle of Magic books from Tamora Pierce.
Oh.
So I read those in high school for the first time, and they're about like this it does the group hero. So there's four main characters, right? And they
Oh, cool.
all their magic is expressed through like normal day things. Like one of them, she's a seamstress and her magic is done through thread work. One of them is like a smith mage. One of them is a
Ah,
gardening mage, and then the other one, her magic is expressed through lightning or through
that's
weather.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds neat.
And I think there was four books in the series, and it follows along with them as they sort of go through like it would be like the equivalent of middle school. And they're very like it's very well done and gives you sort of a different look at magic worked through other other means. And the author
Yeah.
actually did like an interview about it where she had said that she was fascinated to like sit with her mom and her sister who like they would be watching TV and they would be knitting and they would be making things as they're watching TV. And I knit too, so I know what she was talking about, where like it's muscle memory after a while and you don't have to look at what you're
Yeah.
doing.
You
As long
just
as you just remember the pattern with your body, you don't actually have to watch what you're doing. And she had said that that was fascinating, how like she always felt like she had clumsy hands, so she could never do that, and it looked like magic to her how they were making something right in front of her out of nothing. And I always
that's
thought that
so
was
cool.
really fascinating.
That is really
So,
cool. I know, like, I think the other, I don't think I have it over there. The other book that I got into maybe at the end of middle school or book series was the Abarat books. Which I don't know if you've ever read those, but they're by the same guy that wrote Hellraiser. So, but it's like heck yes, exactly. Um that one is there's this like girl from Minnesota and her life is really boring and horrible. And so she like runs out of school one day and ends up in a field and she like sees this old lighthouse in the middle of a field. They're like landlocked. There's no ocean anywhere, but there's a lighthouse in a field. And she accidentally either accident or she has help or something like that. She sets off this lighthouse basically and calls an ocean from another world and ends up going to this place called Abarat, where each island is a different hour of the day. And it's always that hour of the day there, and it's really so good because the guy who wrote it also did paintings to go with it. And I, being a very visual, creative person, was like, pictures!
I love pictures. Pictures are great.
I don't think I have the book here with me right now. It must be downstairs.
Yeah, I agree. I like the modern headcanon where people that can do that sort of thing, like knitting, creating, are touched by fey magic. And we all know Cedar. Yes, I can agree. Cedar can do all of
Yes.
those things.
Yeah. I think there's something that is kind of magical about like crafting too, where it's like
Making something from nothing.
yeah, like you take a chunk of wood and a lathe and suddenly you have a bowl and it's amazing and beautiful and perfect. How did you do that? Or like how did you make a pen out of that block of whatever? How did it, ceramics, anyone that can throw anything on a wheel, I'm jealous of because I am not coordinated enough to do the wheel work. I can like do pinch pots and stuff, but oh yes, Bridge to Terabithia is so good.
That was very sad. I was very angry that I didn't know what that was ahead of time. Going into seeing that movie for the very first time, I didn't know what it was.
Oh
Nobody warned
no!
me. Nobody
had no
warned me. I was
Kleenexes.
not happy.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Oh yeah, that and like I think books because like my mom was an English major, so we
Okay.
always read stuff growing up. But then my dad's family was weird, and that also influenced me.
Tell the story. You have to
I
tell
have
the
to tell the story.
story.
I mean, okay. So, because it's not really a bit. It kind of is. I don't really know what it is. But my dad and one of his brothers have always kind of made up imaginary family members where, like, when I was younger, it was Clem, who was our hillbilly like relative, and they would always, do jokes that are like, "Yes, it's family lore exactly." Thank you. That's great. That's what I'm gonna call it from now on. Um, but it was basically like they would go into a shop and then come back out and joking about Clem and how he doesn't know what perfume is. He like it says eau de toilette on it, and so he's like, why would anybody want to smell like a toilet? And they would just go on and on for hours and hours. And like that's the one that I remember from my childhood. But then they gave me and my sister names to be like, oh, and Clem's cousins Myra and Mona. That was me and my sister for some reason. And so, and like even now, they are still making people up. There's my dad is 68 years old, and he and my uncle Frank just invented Burlingame and Carmichael, and not but a couple of years ago. Uh, yeah. So based on a funny street sign. So like all of this has been in my family for many years. I've just added to it with a game or two.
Wish my family was that cool. We were like big into uh so my parents separated when I was 8, and I had 2 neighbor boys that lived like literally like a house over from us, and they pretty much lived in our house. And like they were over for holidays and all kinds of stuff like that. Like they just were always there. We did a lot of like we played a lot of Zelda, we played a lot of
Oh yeah.
like games like that together. We played a lot of there was this game called Thief back in the day that it was a computer game, and like we played the crap out of that game all the time. And we played a lot of like as we got into middle school and stuff like that, me and the boys played a lot of like Magic the Gathering. That was one of
Oh
the
yeah.
first that I started with was Magic the Gathering. And
It's like a gateway drug.
yeah, kind of. It really is. And my little brother played like the Pokemon card game back when that was still
Oh
kind of a thing. He played that a lot.
yeah.
So we were a big like card game, board game kind of family, that sort of thing. My
Cool.
dad taught me how to play cribbage when I was like 7. So,
Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, we played board games a lot too, but it was always just like the Game of Life or
okay.
Monopoly, your
We weren't allowed to
typical.
play Monopoly in our house because there was too many boys and we just argued all the time.
Oh,
So
sure.
like no, it just
That
was
is the
not
kind of game
allowed.
that leads to arguments.
It is.
But
Um,
we didn't have video games. The only computer games we were allowed to play were educational ones. So like
okay.
Oregon Trail and Carmen San
Yep.
Diego.
Yep. We had that. We also had this one. It was called Virgil Reality, which we all got a kick out of because my grandpa's name was Virgil. And he was like this little scientist, and like you could do science experiments with him, and he would teach you things like what would happen when you put like baking soda and vinegar together and that sort of thing. It was like Bill Nye the Science Guy but less cool. And like it was all pretty innocuous like
Yeah.
science experiments for kids and that sort of thing. I think we built like a clock out of a potato one time,
Oh
like
yeah. Did you do the
that sort
thing
of
where
thing.
you like suck the egg into a bottle? Where you
No, we
like
never did that.
that's always a fun one. I think you have to like light a match and put it in there, and then you just stick an egg in the top of the jar, and it like creates a vacuum or something. That
Yeah,
was
I've
fun.
seen it, but we never did that. But yeah,
We
and
always did
then
weird stuff like that.
as we got older, we our family was more like video game oriented. As we got older, we played a lot of like me and my brothers played a lot of WoW, and we played
Oh,
like that was our first big sort of that was my introduction to role play. Honestly, was WoW,
yeah.
because I think I started that. Man, I don't remember how old I was when that came out, but I remember, and like we had the original Warcraft games and stuff like that too that led into World of Warcraft, and we played a
Okay.
lot of that.
Cool.
So
Now, I'm less familiar with World of Warcraft. But it's like an MMORPG, right?
yes,
It's online and you can interact with other people, stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah, and like I haven't played in years, but when I was playing it, sort of at like the height of when I was playing it, I was in a role play server, and that was where I got most of my role play skill from was there,
Okay.
and and then that moved into things like Dungeons and Dragons and
Yeah.
other TTRPGs like that.
World of Warcraft has that kind of typical fantasy setting too, right? Like there's orcs and or,
Yes. Hmm.
or
Orcs
something
and
similar.
elves and yeah,
Yeah.
and they'd like trolls and there's all kinds of stuff now. But yeah, they had that, and I remember when they added like goblins and things like that. So
Interesting.
the
Okay.
last game that I played, I think, was Warlords of Draenor, and that's been quite a while now. So
I have no idea. I've never tried to play that one, but we
it's
never had
easy rabbit hole to fall down, that's for sure.
we never had like good enough equipment. We didn't have I think the only video game thing we had was a Wii with Wii Fit on it. Not super set up for role playing. um so speaking of like getting into role playing games, because I mean, obviously, we are on a channel now that does constant, like, full schedules. We just went through the schedule of, like, all the things coming up this week. We've got Hydrate
Yep, and a posture check. Damn it, Rick!
and a posture check. All right.
I thought we were friends.
Um, like, obviously, we're playing role playing games all the time. We've got, like, the, uh, Mutant Crawl Classics and Dungeons and Dragons and Babies and Broadswords and Vampire the Masquerade and what else have we? I mean, it's been like Honey
Last
Heist.
year, we've played so many different TTRPGs.
I
Like,
just you're doing Call of Cthulhu soon.
yeah,
This week, right? You start this week.
12th, yeah. So, like
Sweet.
next week.
Yeah, Together Among the Stars, which is a smaller scale one. What else? I mean, it's just we just played that
Vampire.
this morning. What's
We've got
that one?
Vampire tomorrow. Vampire
Oh yeah,
Masquerade.
Vampires Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we've played a couple versions of that. We've done Vampire, and we did what was it? Hunter the Reckoning
Mhm, that was
was
the one that we
the
did with
Tooth Fairy
Jared.
one. Yeah, I mean, gosh.
What was your introduction into TTRPGs?
Well, okay, so shockingly, even though I read fantasy stories and stuff all growing up, I didn't know what D&D was. The town that I grew up in was like for the majority of it of my growing up was very like conservative, like a very Catholic town, and I don't know if people just it was also like very focused on football because we were in Ohio and we were like 20 minutes away from the Football Hall of Fame. And so like that was what people did there was football. Yeah. Or anything related to football like marching band or whatever. I'm sure there were people that played D&D. I didn't know about it. So, but then when I went to college, the first time I found out what D&D was when my friends and I sat down and decided to watch it's a show. It's a show. Freaks and Geeks. And they talk about they talk about playing the Dallas board game, which cracks me up. But I'm way older than that. Don't you're giving me too much credit here. Yeah, we watched we got a hold of like a DVD of it or something and watched Freaks and Geeks. And we were watching Charmed a lot at that time too. Even though they don't play D&D in it, it's a very like magic fantasy whatever soap opera. And then but then like even after that I didn't really know what it was. I never played it. I don't think I would have known how fun it was. And then for a while my sister was trying to get me to watch Critical Role, and basically what happened was I went to a Christmas party with some of my friends, and my friend Zane, shout out to Zane, he's an awesome character artist for video games. Hello, Zane. he came to this Christmas party and was like, I've been watching this show called Critical Role, and it makes me want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Would any of you want to play with us? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, I've never done it. So we set up a date to play in February, and I was like, well, he's been watching the show to learn how the game goes, so I'll watch it too. And I started binge watching campaign 2 of Critical Role. And because my sister was the one that told me to start with campaign 2 because they start from the beginning. And so I got to see how it was from like low levels. And yeah, I got super hooked really fast. Especially because in January we had like a week of blizzards basically. It was like January 2019. And it was really horrible.
Up, Daffy. We know it's our
Correct.
whole personality, okay?
We know it's our whole personality. This is why we're doing a talk show about it. Duh. So yeah, like, my friend, like, I watched it nonstop, got super into miniature painting also, so I painted all of our first miniatures, and then we got together once a month and started playing it, and I liked it so much that once a month was not enough for me, so I started looking for games online and at the game shop and stuff like that. So
Okay, that's awesome.
what about you? How'd you actually like get into the role-playing games?
So at least my introduction for D&D, I was in college at the time, and there was actually a group on campus, and they were like most of them were in the English class that I was in at that time, and they were talking about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds really cool, but I'm a shy bean, and I was even worse when I was in college, and I was like too nervous to talk to them and like find out if I could go too and that sort of thing. And so I waited for like years after that. I looked it up and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Like, I think that would be really cool to try, but I never got around to it. And then my ex's father was playing one night when I came home from work, and they were like, there was a whole group of them like just sitting around our kitchen table, and they were playing 3.5 at the time. And I had always wanted to try. Shut up, Rick. And
look, some people are shy.
Right?
Okay? Some people are shy, and there's nothing wrong with that, Rick.
And I had always wanted to try it, but like there was too many people there for me to really want to like jump in and play. And so I started looking around where we were living at the time to see if there was any like open groups or anything like that, and there wasn't. And then when we moved back here to the valley, that was 2018, and 2018 was a really horrible year. So in June of 2018 my grandpa passed away, and then I was going insane. I had to get out of the house. I was like, I just can't sit around like this. So I'm like, what's something that I really want to do that will get me out of the house? And I was like, I've always wanted to play D&D.
Oh.
So I looked around to see if there was any open D&D groups, and I happened to find there was a group that was just starting, and he was taking new players, people who had never played before. And I sent him a message. I'm like, hey, I know I'm a girl, but can I come play? And he's like, yeah, sure, I don't care. So I showed up, and we started playing, and then in November of 2018, my dad passed away.
Oh.
So I was like extra insane, and just like D&D sort of became my escape. And it was right around that time that I found out about Critical Role, and they were like 10 episodes in or something like that to campaign 2.
Campaign 2,
and
yeah.
It was driving me nuts that I didn't understand all the in-jokes from the first campaign. So I went back and watched all of campaign 1 and caught up with campaign 2, and then just kept going from there, because it was driving me nuts that I didn't understand the jokes.
The jokes, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. It bothered me that I didn't know what the art was in their art reels, that I was like, who is that?
Yeah, yep, for sure. And then so that like I was playing like one night a week at that point, and again, that wasn't enough. It wasn't keeping me busy. So I found other games, and a couple of people that were in that first group, we sort of made another night that we were going to play and just sort of started playing. And then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of how I got into the VäkPäker's from that, like just after that, and wandered in here. And now I play D&D all the time. And TTRPGs in general.
Yeah. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of getting in with the VäkPäker's, I think it was Jeremy's fault. Because I was following him on Instagram, and he had posted something about doing a game, or I had like chatted with him or something, and he had posted something. Well, yeah, but he had posted something about like doing a game with followers as players of Basic Edition, and I was like, I love this game so much, and I really want to also be able to understand the origins of the game. Because like 5e is great, but you know, it came from something else, and I just wanted to know what it came from. And so I was like, sign me up. And that was a super fun series. And then yeah, like Prep or Die, got into that. And then this one. Well, and I had wanted to be in a game of like all like women because I think every game that I played in that wasn't with my initial group of friends that I started with, and I had some like really bad experiences trying to find online groups too. And like every group I had been in was all guys. There was one that was like the guys made me be the cleric, and then they were like doing some sort of like one-on-one like fighting pit kind of thing, and they said that because I was the cleric I couldn't participate. I had to wait on the sidelines for people so I could heal people afterwards after their fights.
Okay.
And I was like, peace, I'm leaving.
I got lucky
Yes.
in that respect that I didn't have too many negative interactions when I first started. I like the group of guys that I was playing with, they were all really cool about it, but like I was nervous because I was the only girl, and I'd heard horror stories from other females that had tried to get into playing D&D and just were met with opposition,
Yeah.
all kinds.
Yeah.
And so I was nervous, and so when I reached out to Steven to ask him like, "Hey, can I come play?" I made sure to tell him right up front. I'm like, "Dude, I'm a chick. I don't know anything. I've never played before. I really want to play. Like, I love fantasy, and this is sort of my jam." And he was just like really chill about it, and he was like, "Yeah, it's fine. Just, come here. I'll teach you how to play." And I'm like, "Sweet." So I showed up at the game store that day, and yeah, I've been playing ever since. So
Yeah. By the way, because Rick makes great points, Slovenly Trolls are really good for learning the history of D&D and like history and feminism. Also, Potions and Potpourri, just a great like female-led D&D podcast. Also, watch Fixie's 5, all ladies and NBs, and we're great at it. At being ladies and NBs, obviously.
Storyteller
Yes,
Tavern,
and
yep.
Storyteller Tavern as well. Like nowadays too, there's like so many
Yeah,
really
like I
great
feel
people
like
out there.
yeah. I feel like in the last year, really, I've seen some like really cool groups sort of pop up.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just maybe because I'm paying more attention now than I used to about that sort of stuff, but like
maybe.
I don't know. Also, I didn't really interact like until COVID happened. I didn't really interact with people on the internet about D&D because everything that I saw was just like negative up to that
Mm,
point. And then when COVID hit, everybody went to the internet so that they could keep playing.
yep.
And
Yeah, you had to.
yeah. And then that's actually how I met Jeremy. Was he was streaming D&D prep that day. And he was actually prepping for his Ghost of Saltmarsh game that he had going at the time, his
Oh.
God Killers campaign. And I had actually just finished Saltmarsh. And so I was really curious about like his take on it, like what he thought about it and all that stuff. And I found out very quickly that his was Saltmarsh adjacent and not actually Saltmarsh. He
But
was
it's
working on a map that his players never actually went to. It was amazing.
stuff like that though too. That's when you really start to learn like, oh, there are books, but I also don't have to follow the books.
Yes.
I can make up my own shit.
Yeah.
And it can be super fun and super chill. And like it could be whatever I want, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Great.
And like I didn't just like dip my toe into the DMing. Like I didn't start out with a module. I just sort of threw myself off the deep end and started writing a homebrew like right away. I think I had been playing for less than 6 months when I started writing Fixius. And
Really?
yeah, like I was like,
That's
you know
so
what? This is
fast.
cool, but I could totally do this too. So
That's awesome. Okay, so now the really important questions. Who was your first character? Race, class, all the jazz. Tell us all about them, like when the last time you played with them, what level were they at? All that stuff. If you remember.
my very first character was a tiefling druid because why not start with a magic user?
Of course.
And she was a circle of shepherd
Oh, okay.
because I wanted all the cool animals.
Nice.
And we started out, so Steven had written this campaign and he had all these big plans, and the guy who was playing our barbarian, we made a mathematical error when we were figuring out how much he could actually carry, because bugbears count as like one size larger for carrying capacity.
Yep.
And we raided this place that had a bunch of like wine bottles and wine casks and stuff like that. And so Steven was just like, yeah, so he could probably carry like 10 casks of wine. We didn't really think anything about it. And then I, being the nerd that I am, did the math. And it ended up being about 10,000 bottles worth of wine.
Oh my
And we just went,
gosh.
screw this. And we opened a bar and refused to do the rest of his campaign. So we just started like running our own stuff out of this bar. And he's like, well, I guess this is what we're doing now.
You know, sometimes that's just how it goes.
I think her name was Tika.
Ika. That's a good name.
I think that was her name. But it's been a hot minute, so.
Tiefling, you said? Tiefling druid?
Yep.
Nice. Circle of the Shepherd. I've never looked that closely at that one.
Happy. I'm sure it didn't start with an A or a K. Thank you very much.
Is that the one that you can like put totems down? Or like you like use like the not totems, but there's like little figures that you can put down and it gives people advantage on attacks or it gives people extra healing or something like that.
No, it's. Do you summon them? I'm looking right now because I can't remember right off
It's
the top
like
of my
a summoning thing.
I only played the one Circle of Shepherd, and
let's look it up.
They can commune with the spirits. So yeah, you like summon spirits.
Oh yeah. Oh
so,
yeah.
Like one of them is like a bear and a hawk and a unicorn and things like that.
Yes.
So
Spirit totems. Yeah, the bear gives temporary hit points.
Yeah.
And
so that was the one that I started with, and because like I wanted to do something that was magic based, and also when I played World of Warcraft, I mained healers. Go figure. I know that's a surprise to everybody. I mained healers, and so like I wanted to do something that was like healer adjacent, but not actually a healer, and so Druid was sort of the more natural choice for that.
Yeah. My first character, I had a friend that she knew she wanted to be a druid.
Okay.
I think just because she thought druids were cool in like other things. She wanted to be able to turn into an animal. Group mom for life. That's right.
God.
And at the point that we started, I was like truly, because when I started watching campaign 2, I think they were on like episode 35 or 40. And by the time we started playing a month later, I was fully caught up. Campaign 2. And
Nice.
so I have a special place in my heart for Critical Role campaign 2. And of course, my favorite character was Bo, because like monks are super cool. So I made a monk, but I did an Earth Genasi, and yeah, she was a 4 elements monk,
Nice.
so I could kind of cast spells using key points.
You're the avatar, basically.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I think we ended when we were at level 5 because we just did Lost Mines of Phandelver. We did that whole thing.
Oh my God.
And I know apparently in this channel that's a controversial adventure for some reason.
There she goes. You knew Effie was going to have something to say about that.
But see, here's the thing. So, because our Lost Mines of Phandelver was not even really that adventure at the beginning.
Or adjacent.
Yeah, it was Phandelver adjacent. So, none of us had ever played D&D before, including the DM. He had only ever watched people play it. And so, he didn't really know what he was doing, and we didn't really know what we were doing. And so, we can't, like, the first thing that happens, spoiler alert for Lost Mines of Phandelver, the first thing that happens in that adventure is you are taking a wagon to the town of Phandalin, and there is a dead horse in the road, and then you get ambushed by goblins. We got ambushed by goblins, and we killed them all immediately, and so there were none to run away to. There's like some hideout kind of down the way. We killed them so fast that there was no one to chase to the hideout, so we didn't know it was there. And we didn't look for it because we didn't know how to play. And the DM, and so we were like, we just continue we move the dead horse and continue into town.
Awesome.
And so then I think the first 2 or 3 sessions, we just kind of, I think we did like all the side quests. I'm pretty sure we did the Banshee thing first. But also we like thought there was something weird about the mayor of the town, so we snuck into town hall to see it, like read his paperwork.
Ew.
It was like it was not Phandalin. It had nothing to do with Lost Mines of Phandelver. And the only way that we actually got into the story was we kind of got stuck because we didn't know what we were doing. And what ended up happening was all we knew there were these like bully guys in town that wore red cloaks and they were being mean to people, and that was the only tie we had to the main storyline. And I had figured that it had something to do with it because like the DM kept bringing it up, but he didn't know how to get us to any place where we would find out that information. And like we kept trying to find the mine and we couldn't find it. And finally we were in town one day and we saw the red cloak guys, and I just walked up to one of them with my monk and said, "Excuse me, do you have the time?" And then I punched him in the face.
Oh no.
And that's how we found the rest of the story. We almost died in that fight. But it worked out for the best.
The first time that I played Phandelver, our DM also was still pretty new at the time, and he crit with one of the goblin arrows, and I think I had like 6 hit points. So it was like instant death. I was like, oh, I just finished making this character. So like that's how I learned really early on, don't get attached to your characters.
Yep.
At like low levels, because there's no point. And so we played through Phandelver, but we used Phandelver as sort of a jumping off point into Storm King's Thunder.
Oh.
And
The
Storm King's
giant
Thunder was
one?
good.
Yeah.
Like, I liked Storm King's Thunder a lot.
I see. Oh, the first character death. We got to go into this too because some people don't realize, like, when they first. And I don't know if you've been watching the Dungeons and Drag Queens show on Dimension 20, but there's also a point where they're talking about something with Brennan, and they, like, one of them, I think it might have been Alaska. So it's something about, can we die? And Brennan was like, oh yeah. Just like fully serious, straight face, like, yeah, you can die. And they were all like, oh my gosh, really? Like, it did not occur to them that their characters could die.
Yep.
Or maybe it was Jujubee. I don't know. Anyway, they had a whole conversation about how, like, yes, your character can die in D&D. That's a thing that can happen. And when I was getting into, like, oh, my group doesn't play often enough, I really love this game, I want to find another group, I jumped into the end of an online campaign on Roll20 that was, it was Tomb of Annihilation, but I think they were level 9 or 10, so they were like almost at the end. And I was like, oh, I'll be a cleric. Like, that sounds cool. They probably need one, whatever. But again, I still didn't really know how to play the game. So they went into a room and I hung back because I was like, I'll keep watch. So they go into this room. They're trying to figure out, they get locked in. So I'm locked out of the room. I'm like banging on the door, stuck in the hallway. They're trying to figure out this puzzle as the room fills up with acid. And they, instead of figuring out the puzzle, they broke the lever that was supposed to do something. They like tore off the handle to try and stick it into something, but it broke it, and so they all died.
Oh no.
And so my first session, I spent the whole session stuck in a hallway while everybody else died. The beginning of the next session, I got out of the hallway. They had all made new characters. I go back. We split the party, exactly. Never split the party, but also sometimes split the party.
Split the party. And if you're lucky, like Mistwalkers, you split the party 3 ways. More than once.
Multiple times. For Bankar Brouhaha, I had a plan for if the party split to go check out different things after all their dreams they had. We'll see what happens next time. But I like went down the hall to meet up with the new characters that they had all made, and ended up there was some sort of like infernal engine or hellfire train, or I don't know exactly what it's called, but it was some like big mechanical devil thing. And I hadn't healed myself because I did not know how to cleric. And I just wandered down there, got hit by this thing, immediately got knocked out, got hit by again, failed 2 death saves, and then rolled a nat 1 on my next death save.
Oh no.
Died 20 minutes into session 2. So, pro tip, you can die. Yeah, so many rookie mistakes. I had no idea what I was doing. Had no clue. But also, I mean, to be fair, Tomb of Annihilation is rough.
Grinder. Like,
yeah.
it's a meat grinder on purpose.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my first character death.
Mine was not so cool. It was my first character death was actually named Artemis, and
oh no,
doesn't have anything to do with why I have that name. But she was a ranger, and we were playing in one of Steven's homebrews, and we were like traveling, and we ran into like a group of giant wasps, and so like we fought them, right? Because they were like attacking people on the road, and like we were like, okay, cool,
Right.
we're just gonna clear these things out. Well, we didn't really think anything about it because like they didn't do that much damage
Yeah.
because at the level that we were at. But what we didn't count on was the band of gnolls that was like right behind them. So my first character death got eaten by gnolls. The entire party wiped. It was not good.
No.
It was bad.
Oh no. I don't think I've ever been part of a TPK.
I've
I
been part of two.
actually. Really?
Yeah, I've
Wow.
been in two. One of them was
Yeah.
during that homebrew game, and then one of them was during we had just started Tomb of Annihilation because we were on Chult, and like we wandered into the jungle, and it didn't go well. There was lizard people. It was a thing.
That's, yeah, lizard people. They're rough. Some of those are really rough. That's actually
I didn't know that
amazing.
Zoom was your first character death. That's crazy.
That's actually really amazing that you managed to make it 20 years before you had your first character death. That's actually impressive.
I think I made it 4 months.
Well, I guess like at the end here, we're gonna kind of go into Player's Handbook for D&D a little bit because D&D was our first game,
Yeah, for sure.
and this is what mine looks like. Artemis has the fancy one.
Yeah, I went and got the fancy ones when I first started. Because,
Right.
why do anything half-assed?
Yeah, right? Do it whole ass.
Right?
The Player's Handbook, if you don't know, is the book that tells you how to play D&D. And it's not small by any stretch of the imagination, so it can be kind of intimidating. But we're going to try and go through it in the next couple of episodes and just make it make sense. Because some things in the PHB...
Sometimes they do, and
always.
sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they do, and sometimes... Well, and sometimes, like, I don't know about you, but the way that I learn is either through hearing things, because I learned that through school, is like listening to lectures, and so you learn that way. Or by doing it, like, do it as it goes. But trying to, like, read instructions like that, it just, like, completely blows through my brain. I'll read something 5 times and be like, I don't know what that means. And so that's part of why, like, I watched people play it, is because that helped me learn way better than reading the book.
Yeah. Yep. So the PHP is actually the only one of the 3 that I've actually read all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. I started
awesome.
getting ready to DM, and I looked at the DM book and just kind of went bet and read about half of it. But the PHP was the one that I read all the way through, like when I was first getting started, because I really wanted to know how it was gonna go, and I read through character creation and stuff like that because I didn't know, and I didn't want to be not only the only girl in the group that I was in, but I also didn't want to be stupid.
Like,
Because
unprepared.
I'm terrified of being stupid and unprepared for things.
Yeah.
So I, like, panic read, and yeah. So...
What should we talk about first with the PHP? Because I know I, like, wrote down some hot takes, but we can wait to get into them for, like, when we talk about other stuff.
I mean... I guess we could start, like, with... we had talked about starting with, like, the races and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's the first thing that you pick out usually, like, when you make characters, is, like, your race. that
Yeah.
sort of gives you the jumping off point.
And this is the 5th edition rules. I don't know how this stuff will change going forward, but this is just what we started with. Nowadays, there's another book called Tasha's Guide to Everything? No, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Where you can, like, change up how things are assigned. But in original 5e, there were ability score mods based on your race.
Yeah, and I've played through all of the races in the player's handbook now.
See, I have not. Well, no, I have not. I've never played a dwarf.
Okay.
And I've actually never played a full elf. I don't think.
I'm one of those people that likes to make weird character combos. Like, when I
Same.
first started, I was like, well, dwarves are always fighters. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a dwarf fighter. I want to be like a dwarf wizard or something. So like the very first thing that I made that was a dwarf was a sorcerer. I made a wild magic sorcerer.
Interesting combination.
So
I think dwarves are also usually associated with clerics because don't they get a wisdom boost or something? Somewhere in there. Or maybe it depends on what kind of dwarf you are. Hill dwarves get wisdom. Mountain dwarves get strength.
Yep. Yeah, so like the hill dwarf would be more of your cleric-y type, and then the mountain dwarf is more like barbarian style if you're going for that kind of build.
Right. Oh yeah, because they get a boost to constitution as dwarves also.
I don't remember what the name of my dwarf was now, but it was something very strange.
I'm trying to remember because I've not played a full elf. I have played a human. I don't. No, I did. Okay, so I had not played a halfling until
Gary Con?
I think Gary Con.
Okay.
And I was a halfling cleric in the Cirque du Solis game we played there.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I played, as far as elves go, I played a drow. That was the first thing that I played. That was an elf, was a drow.
Of course, because here's the thing. I know, and like old school players will say this, because drow are supposed to be evil. They're freaking cool, okay? Drow are freaking cool. Of course everybody wants to play a drow. They're like sexy, kind of purple-skinned, white-haired. Like, why would you not? Of course, everyone wants to be Drizzt Do'Urden. Yeah, of course they do.
That was my inspiration for it, because I have the graphic novels of that I had gotten for Christmas one year, and so that was like my inspiration for playing a drow, because I was like, okay, but regular elves are kind of boring.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen Lord of the Rings, they're all pretty and English and
Yep.
And I was like, no. Bet I'm gonna make a drow, and they're gonna swear all the time, and
I think
that's
my
kind of player I was.
My one of my other characters that I've played the most, that's the druid that I have in the Curse of Strahd game. She's half drow from Xhorhas in the Critical Role land of Exandria.
What took you, like, apart from the dwarf, what took you the longest to actually get around to playing? Like, for me, it was humans, because I had no interest in ever playing a human, because I'm a human, and I feel like humans are boring. So, like, I was like, nah, I don't need to do that, but I have finally played as a human.
This is gonna sound horrible, but any of the shorter races. Because in the player's handbook, their speed is slower. So, like, gnomes, halflings, and dwarves, I think their speed is 25, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, base speed is 25, so.
Yeah, so I didn't want to be slow.
Redneck elves like Moonshine and Nadpod, yes.
Heck yes. By the way, Moonshine and Nadpod, one of the coolest characters. Emily Axford. Need I say more? I also actually, I think I've only played a half orc and a one shot because I wanted to play sexy people, like people that look cool.
Right, yeah.
So like the first character I ever played was an Earth Genasi, and she looked like I know they
Yelling.
can. I know they can. I didn't like the underbite and the tusks. I know it's stupid, but I wanted to be like sleek. You know what I mean? Like, and I made myself an Earth Genasi, and then I like all the stuff in the which those aren't even in the player's handbook, but all the stuff about them said that they like look like dirt or stone, and I was like, well, if they look like stone, why can't they look like a gemstone? So I made her look like Chalcedony, and she had these like gold veins going through her, and she was like turquoise. Yeah, she was cool.
The first Genasi that I played was an Earth Genasi, and they had like veins of jade running through them.
Yeah, that pass without trace is no joke. You know what I
Right?
mean? Who
Yeah.
wouldn't want that?
Dragonborn are just awesome because they can breathe on things. I loved that. Like,
That's
I also
true.
played a Dragonborn monk because why not?
Heck yes. Monk with a breath weapon? Why not?
One of my favorite things about Dragonborn is that if you play Circle of Moon Druid or any druid really, but your wild shape, when you wild shape into whatever creature, you can use your breath weapon as whatever that creature is. So like a
Oh,
chipmunk with like fire breath is just terrifying, and I love that.
You know, and Affy makes a good point. Tieflings technically in the player's handbook are listed as being either normal human skin tone or of reddish hue, but ain't nobody follows that.
My first tiefling was
Nobody
like, the
goes
first
like that.
character had like normal skin tones, but they had horns
Yeah,
and red eyes, I think is what I went with. But every tiefling that I've ever played since then has been like just crazy colors. Like I played a
yeah.
white tiefling, and then I played a black tiefling, and I played a purple tiefling, I think.
Nice. Well, in
Oh.
Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, their tieflings are noted to be, they can be of any color, basically.
I think I've even really used my greatsword in Bankar, but I have used. Yes.
Yeah. You haven't used your greatsword? I mean, we've only had one combat, but still.
I love Dragonborn's breath weapons. Gnomes are crazy. I love gnomes just because I like making crazy characters. And in Fixius, we have Bilphis, who is this crazy gnome artificer that keeps upgrading Ram every time they see them, because why not?
Of
Ram
course.
is slowly becoming Iron Man. It's fine.
Yeah, see, so if you play in Exandria, just so you know, this is what it says in the book. Exandrian tieflings have a wide array of skin tones, all of them vibrant and colorful. The most common hue is a deep crimson, but shades of purple, blue, green, and even yellow and pink have been seen throughout the world. It is not known what causes these variations, as even tiefling parents with the same skin tone can have children of wildly different colors. So there you go.
There you go.
Also, yeah, nobody follows that. Come on. If you're gonna play a tiefling, of course you want to make your skin tones all sorts of weird colors. That's the same reason you play a Genasi.
Doing Lord's Ring. Yeah, exactly.
You just go wild. That's right. Matt Mercer's out here advocating for the little people. Thank you, Matt Mercer, for making tieflings be able to be whatever color they like. Which, they technically, in their first campaign, they had a white one.
Yeah, that was Kit Buss's character.
Kit Buss's character.
Yep. She was like a maid or something in the palace.
Yeah.
In
Iman.
Yeah, Iman. I'm like, wait, I know. I'm like, I remember this place. Place that the dragon blew up.
Yep.
But yeah, and yeah.
Well, tiefling should be every color of the rainbow because that I feel like is gay person's character of choice. Right?
I love tieflings. Like, they are probably my favorite class, like favorite race.
Really?
And yeah, and as
You
we all
know,
know, it's hell. So
I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to the like playtesting stuff they've been doing with 1D&D, but of all the like changes they've tried and things they've put out there, the changes they made to the tieflings were my favorite because there were different types of tieflings that depending on which type you chose, you were either resistant to fire or poison or I think necrotic or something. Like it would depend on which type you chose.
kind
Yes,
of like
and
what they
you have
did
cool
with
hair.
yes, that's kind of like what they did with it's like the demonic lineage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't those give you different resistance depending on which like Lord of the Nine Hells you chose? 'Cause I think
Yes, I think
Asmodeus was
so.
one of them, and
that's where like the variant tieflings came from, maybe also.
yeah, something like that. But
I don't remember now. Like, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. What was after tieflings? That was like what, gnomes? Gnomes are cool. Just I love gnomes because they're chaos beings, and also I have a soft spot for chaos beings.
Yeah, that's fair.
Half elves are cool. Like I think I think like my second character was a half elf
Yeah.
because I liked the idea of them being unwelcome in either society because like as a person who kind of went through that in my own life, like I sort of related to that.
Oh,
Where like I
yeah.
didn't really fit in anywhere. And so
Yep.
like that sort of spoke to me about them being like the outsiders in their world. The same with half orcs. Like I really
Yeah.
liked that idea of that like their orcish parents didn't want them, their human parents didn't want them. Like the
Hmm.
the sort of proverbial outsider that like proves themselves. So I think it's all of the races in the PHB.
Oh, there we go. I found it. Yeah,
Think
the
like
new or the Unearthed Arcana version of the tiefling they came out with, if you were an abyssal tiefling, I can talk. You had resistance to poison damage and you knew poison spray. If you were a chthonic tiefling, you had resistance to necrotic damage and you knew chill touch. And if you were infernal, you had resistance to fire damage and you knew firebolt. And then you got other spells as you went up.
Okay.
But yeah. I think, yeah, I have only played a tiefling once. There's several that I've only played once. Like, I do actually, some of them I save on my characters because like there was one that I played for a one shot that was a half orc astral monk and she was so fun to play. And her name was Vola and she had that Russian accent.
Yes, I'm here for that.
Yeah. But I do sometimes save like one-shot characters because you play them and they're really fun and you're like, maybe someday I'll play that.
I hang on to my one-shot characters for about 3 months because that's about how long I know that it's going to take, whether or not the DM is going to want to do a second one of that.
Oh, sure.
And if it looks like they probably are not at 3 months, they probably aren't going to want to down the road. Unless, of course, you're Cedar, in which case you wait an entire year before you do another one. But, yeah.
Amazing.
So, like, it was almost exactly a year from one Gramsby stage to the most recent one that we did. It was almost exactly a year.
Oh, wow. One of these days, I've also, like, there's a couple classes that I've played that I've only played because I've multi-classed.
Okay.
And some of them I would like to, like, really dig into it.
Yeah,
I think, like...
Sure. Like, I think for our next one, that's what we should do is, like, talk about the classes. Because you can really spend a long time talking about the different classes and...
Yeah.
like what about him that you really like and what you don't, and things like that.
I might try to be a bard next time.
I was a bard, and now that bard is stuck in a canopic jar and is being possessed by a warlock. So,
Oops.
right? Yeah, it's fine.
Well, we've kind of gone over that. We'll probably dig in a little bit more to the player's handbook next time, but I don't know. We've been on for a bit now. What do you think?
I think it's a good place to stop. We can dive into the classes next time. And
Yeah.
hopefully, I can figure out my technology issues here.
All right. Well, it's been lovely talking with you all. Perhaps we'll put something out there of like another survey of what's your favorite classes to play? What are your favorite character combinations? And talk about some of that too.
Yeah, maybe we'll put like a poll up or something. Like,
yeah, I think that would be fun.
I
Yes,
did
we
put a couple of
should
things
do
up
that.
on Instagram to like in prep for this one. Like, I had asked a couple of people like, what was your first TTRPG character?
Hmm,
Shell had said that their first character was a human monk himbo.
nice.
And then I also asked like I said, ask Emily and Artemis a question for their new show, and Shell wants to know favorite home game rule that you've seen or used in games.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think the most commonly used one is the potion as a bonus action.
Hmm.
That's what I see most
Yeah,
often.
like it's a
Like if you're
bonus
drinking
action,
it
give it to
yourself.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, hmm. Homebrew rules.
My favorite is the like if a character dies and you're gonna do revivify and you're not in the middle of combat. Like the thing that Matt Mercer does with his players because I'm a
Yeah,
dramatic
to do
ass bitch,
the
and
yeah.
I love that stuff. So just fair warning to my Fixies crew out there. I warned you guys at the beginning, and I'm warning you again now. If one of y'all dies, we're doing that. So
Yep. Yep.
Effie's like, no.
No, we have to. It'll be great. It might not work, but it'll be great. That's where the emotion. Get into the emotion. Uh,
Because Fixies doesn't have a problem doing that.
that's
That
true.
group changes so fast.
Yeah.
Be laughing 1 minute and sobbing hysterically the next.
Ram punches them back to life. I could see that happening. Wake up, bitch.
Giant metal hand just whooping him.
Wake up. Um, I like the idea of either the DM rolling death saves or rolling secret death saves with the DM, like whispered to the DM, so that no one else knows if you're dying or not.
Yep.
But I don't know if I would like that in reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be it would be difficult for me to not know.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because all of a sudden your character's just dead.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else I've seen. That's like not rules as written. Yes, I actually like that too. They've only used it once. Oh no, we're offline.
What happened?
It says we're offline now.
Oh no.
Oh, it's back up. Please refresh. Thank you.
Okay.
We're almost done anyway, but
Weird. Very weird.
We hit our time limit and
Dream was
the
just like, no,
computer
you're
was
done.
like, nope. Nope.
Very strange.
I also like that the rule of rolling with emphasis because
So explain that, because I don't actually know what that is. I haven't heard of that.
So rolling with emphasis is where you roll 2 d20s and you take the one that is furthest from 10.
Whether up or down.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's not advantage or disadvantage. It's just you roll 2, and whichever one is farther away from 10, that's the one you take. And I think it's supposed to be used like in particularly dramatic moments when there's a lot on the line. Yeah. So they've only used it once, and that was in the Worlds Beyond Number children's story. They've used it. So if you are on their Patreon, you will have heard it. But yeah, it is good because it's not necessarily like it's like putting a little bit of extra risk in there.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't
Hmm.
know.
That is cool. I like another one that I've seen that it's not necessarily a homebrew rule, but it's so for Mistwalkers, Affy does stress effects, which are
Oh
like
yeah.
exhaustion effects. They're similar. I think they have a little bit different, like what they cause, I think is a little bit different, but I really like that
Yeah.
in Mistwalkers. It gives this sort of sense of desperation to the
Mm-hmm.
domains of dread, which is a very serious like domain,
Yeah.
obviously, to be in.
There's
And
I
there
know
are
there's
some times that I really hate it, but also I love it at the same time because
well, when you're in the domains of dread, you're in really stressful situations. Everything
exactly.
is bad.
Yes. Everything's
That's
bad. Stuff is
because
on fire. It's not good.
isn't there like a optional rule in the DMG that's similar to that or along those lines? But they might call it like a sanity roll or something. Or maybe that one's in Tomb of Annihilation.
No Affy.
Oh boy.
For those of you listening at home, Affy is a 12-year-old boy trapped in a grown woman's body. It's fine. She's over here making penis jokes.
Does happen.
It's fine. I think I remember seeing something about that in the DMG. I'd have to actually look it up, but
Yeah.
I think I remember something like that.
I'm
There's
trying
a
to.
part in
Oh,
the
Van
Richten's
Richten's
guide that
guide.
tries to help you set the scene with stress and fear, set it to make it a mechanic. Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Those of you that don't know, Affy is a kick-ass DM on Monday nights and a lot of other times. But Monday nights, in particular, she runs a Domain of Dread campaign, and it's
We could run through PHB character creation stuff and then talk about optional rules from the DMG. Because technically, things like flanking is an optional rule. Feats are optional rules.
It's like I use flanking in my campaign, but Affy doesn't use flanking in hers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, that could be good to talk about. If we don't get to it next time, we'll maybe do it the time afterwards because optional rules can be fun. Hey, thanks, Rick. We are amazing DMs. What can we say? We try to be anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we may have like because we're just starting this. Obviously, this is the first episode, but it'll be fun to like
have a plan.
Yeah, we did. It's true. It'll be fun to the like as the like chat and the community get more involved, get more questions. And just let us know things you want to talk about. We're happy to talk about it. Maybe we'll have guests at some point. I had mentioned I had mentioned it would be fun to do like anytime an arc of a show wraps up or like a short series or a one shot, we could have a little talk show here. So Who knows what this will turn into, but as of right now, we just know that it's a talk show about games.
Started out as a, hey, Affy, hear us out. And now here we are.
And now here we are.
2 weeks later, here we are.
Oh, there's a poll up. Okay. Did your first
Right.
RPG character survive? Let's
It
end with
did.
the poll. My
It did,
character
but-
survived, but the campaign did not.
Yes, exactly. Like that was the one that I was talking about with the bar that we had the bottles of wine that we like finally did the math on, and
It's like,
it ended up being like 10,000 bottles worth of wine. So we were just
Oh,
like, you know
and
what, we're
we-
gonna open a bar.
we don't have a bag of holding? Well, I guess we just have to stay here.
Yep, exactly. There was phase spiders in the basement. I remember that.
Nice.
Like we were gonna get this like place for free if we could clear it out, but they couldn't figure out what was causing the problem, and it ended up being phase spiders. And for level 2 characters, phase spiders
really
are
hard.
dangerous.
Yeah,
So
for real.
they can go like into the ethereal
Ooh.
plane and then come back out and attack.
Oh, now I want to know who answered no. There's one person that answered no so far. Who did it? Whose character died?
I mean, I'm guessing that was probably Affy, where Agni killed her character in one shot with the bugbear in Fandelver. So that's like one reason that she doesn't really like Fandelver. I also
Oh no.
don't like Fandelver because I played it a lot. But
Yeah.
Rose wasn't your first character. Okay. Curious. I want to know. I want to know who's.
I want to know whose
died.
character died. I'm so sorry your first character died. I will say my first character did have the most tragic backstory. I wrote a really long tragic backstory. That's you, Liz? Oh no! I'm so sorry.
Died. Wait, are you talking about Tabitha? I love my pixie barbarian in the Spooktober marathon ended up leaving.
To play poker with dogs.
Yeah, there was like for those of you that don't know, in the Spooktober, like the end of Spooktober, we did a 12-hour one shot that was a 200-room dungeon crawl, and one of the rooms was literally the dogs playing poker, tainting, but like real.
Happy stuff.
It was amazing.
Oh, I'm sorry your character died, Liz.
To be fair, we did warn Liz that was going to happen because that was their character on Mutant Crawl Classics.
Oh, I understand. That makes sense.
But yes. I didn't know that was your first character, though. That's awesome. And also not, because we killed your character. Permanently retired to play poker. Yes, exactly. Well, it looks like most people's character survived.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Me too. Oh,
Well, I think that's
wow.
probably as good a place as any to end it.
Yeah. We're glad most of you survived. Sorry about Tabitha. 'Tis the way of Mutant Crawl Classics. If it makes you feel better, my mutant also technically died. Twice. I think in that episode, technically. Yeah, well, we'll be back again in 2 weeks to talk more PHB, to talk more D&D. And, we're not always going to be talking D&D. We have lots of other games that we all love to play. Some of us like to attempt to make our own games, and it goes never as well as we hope it will. But such is life.
You just gotta try. Keep throwing stuff at the wall till it sticks.
I'm working on it. Maybe sometime we have to do an episode on homebrewing or something.
Yeah, sure. We both homebrew a lot, so
we do. But yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks, 7 p.m. Eastern, to talk more D&D role-playing games and other good stuff. If you have questions for us to cover on our show, things that you want us to talk about, let us know. And don't forget to subscribe here, to buy Pride merch before it goes away at midnight tonight, and to buy Canadian Dice. They're our sponsors, and we love them.
We love them.
And I'm guessing we're gonna raid?
I don't know, Effie, are we?
Maybe? Alright, we're gonna raid
I don't know who we're
somebody.
raiding, but we're raiding.
Thank you for joining us. We had fun. I had fun. And
monumentally
we'll
less nervous now.
Yeah, now that we're into it, we're gonna be like so relaxed. Well, bye everybody. Stay for the raid. Have a good next couple of weeks.
Nice.